Little dark. We need a little light in here. We'll do that in a moment, and we're good. Let it fly.
To the JT the Brick Show, where the Raider Nation has come to sound off and react for over 20 years.
It's the JT the Brick Show, broadcasting live from the Finley Cadillac Performance Studio.
Raiders bring a blitz. He takes it off the middle, and he's wrapped up from behind. Max Crosby.
Your silver and black home to sound off for over 20 years.
Open at the 35, racing to the 20, 10, touchdown Raiders.
And now, here's JT the Brick.
Hey, JT with you, and I hope you had a nice day yesterday. Martin Luther King birthday, inauguration day, a national holiday. We had the day off on Raider Nation Radio, but I did not have the day off. I did 4 hours. 4 hours, long-haul trucker stuff last night for the national championship game as the Ohio State won the championship game. Did that last night on Mad Dog Sports Radio. So I am all prepped. I'm all ready to go because we will talk college football today. We will preview the AFC and NFC championship game. We'll discuss the Raiders' opportunity to hire a new head coach, which is very important around here on this platform where I'm at today. But I want to begin by wishing everybody, I hope you had a good couple of days. If you had it off and you had the holiday yesterday into the championship game, I hope it was a good one for you. We are live on YouTube at JT the Brick YT, where we're building out that platform with some exciting news coming into our Radio Row adventure in New Orleans. New Orleans is under snow today. Snowing like blowing hard snow. I woke up today, it was 31 degrees on the mean streets of Summerlin when I got the dog out there for a walk. So getting cold, but the sun is out, and I got a busy week here, a short week for us, and we're going to do our best to give you everything that we know because a lot of this is unknown, and that's why we give you the monologue. The monologue is brought to you by Golden Entertainment, the home of PTs with all of their taverns here in the Valley. Hope you were there last night to watch. If you get a chance to go watch sports on a Monday, Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, UFC, Golden Knights hockey, UNLV basketball, Lady Rebels this time of year, they have it all on at PTs as they fuel the monologue and kick off the show. So you're either in two camps this morning. You're a freaked out Raider fan that needs therapy, and I'm your therapist, and we know who you are. Or you're calm and cool, and you know this is going to be figured out without your help. That's it. That's all there is. I'm an expert on this topic. There are no other experts on this topic other than me. I've been doing this longer, and that's it. I've been doing it longer, and that's what's happening now. We're at a point now where either you're going to freak out because you thought there was supposed to be someone you wanted and we didn't get them, or you're calm and cool because you think the next plan is going to happen because it's going to happen, and we're going to deal with it as it happens, and then we're going to talk about it. You're in one of the two camps, and I understand both of your camps really well because I am your Raider therapist. And again, you can blame me, and you haven't been blaming me on this one for once, which has been kind of nice. Even the trolls on social media, because I never said Ben Johnson was coming. I said it'd be great if we got him there, but I'm not out there. I'm not in the business of making predictions. I don't gamble on sports. I don't give you scores. I put the other people on who want to do that. And then when they tell me who the coach is, usually I get to interview the coach and build a relationship, get to know that coach. And then you yell at me because I don't want to get fired in front of the coach by telling the coach live to fire me because I'm going to ask him a question that you think is fair, which isn't fair. So I'm really good at this. I'm like actually really good at what's going on right here. I'm going to let them tell me what they're going to do. I'm going to tell you what I think is the best move, which I have done. And by no means was I like, Ben Johnson he's the guy. He's 100%. No one does that. I mean, can you lay off Vinny Bonsignore and some of our insiders who have good information? Like the whole world thought Ben Johnson over a 48-hour period was coming to the Raiders. You want to blame Jay Glazer? You know, Adam Schefter's the only guy who didn't think it was going to maybe happen. Ian Rappaport, Tom Pelissaro, all the NFL insiders who I have right here on my phone and can reach out to, all of them thought that Ben Johnson, because of Tom Brady, was the target that the Raiders were going after. And I can confirm that. The Raiders are going after Ben Johnson. He selected the Chicago Bears. So is that sky is falling? I mean, I could sit here for 2 hours without a commercial break, and we got to get a lot of them in. 2 hours telling you why Ben Johnson might not have worked.
never coached a game in the NFL. You all complain that there's a lot of, we don't have the experience to coach against Jim Harbaugh and Sean Payton and Andy Reid. How are we going to get someone? Well, that guy has no experience. So you think when he walked out onto the field, Andy Reid would be nervous? You think that Sean Payton would be shaking in his boots? Probably not. But I like the potential hire of Ben Johnson because I've been very consistent on my point of view about what needs to be fixed the most with the Raiders. The Raiders need a new offensive vision, and the offensive vision needs to be fast, explosive, gunslinger, take chances, just do everything a lot better. So Ben Johnson was very intriguing to me, but I didn't put I didn't go die on that hill, as we like to say, and I don't think anybody else did either. I think a lot of our insiders and the people we had on the radio were like, yeah, this thing is kind of trending towards Ben Johnson, and it looks like Tom Brady, that would be a good fit for Brady and his new vision as a minority owner for the Raiders, and they didn't get him. So that happens. Sometimes you don't get the coach. You don't get one, but you get 1A. Or you get the second, or you get the third option here. So I understand where you are today, and that's the focus of the show. So you can call in on this topic wide open at 702-365-9200. Are you disappointed that the Raiders did not get Ben Johnson, knowing that you and I don't know how close they were to getting him? We don't know. We have no idea if he was this close, if you're watching me this close with my fingers together, or there was a wide gap. But the point was Tom Telesco was let go, it looks like, to clear everything out so a Ben Johnson would find it more appealing. Everyone reported that. Every single person reported that the coach and the GM were let go to make the job look more appealing to candidates. And we all assume that candidate number one was Ben Johnson. I'm good with that. If he was candidate number one and they lost him, I'm a big boy radio. I can move on and wait for the next guy. And I like Pete Carroll a lot. I think Pete Carroll, the reason why I like Pete Carroll, I'm not going to say more than Ben Johnson or less, but pretty much the same, is because Pete Carroll can walk on the field, home and on the road, and go, I beat you, I beat you, I beat you, I beat you a bunch. I beat you more than you beat me. And I think the Raiders can use that now. I think they could use the stabilizing force who has a sophisticated understanding on how a football organization is operated top to bottom and wins a lot and is just a winner. I think that's a good opportunity right now for the Raiders. But if you said, hey, we're going to pass on Pete Carroll because we got Ben Johnson, I would have been fine with that, because then I would have went nuts and said, here we go with the offense. Once we get the quarterback that we want, Ben Johnson is going to trick everything up, make it really great, and then we'll be able to have a different offense and one that I would like. So that ship has sailed. And he went to Chicago. But again, you're going to find people that can handle news like that and other people who just unravel. And they didn't know Ben Johnson. These are the same fans that unraveled when Josh McDaniels was hired. Josh McDaniels won 6 Super Bowls. The other guy, Ben Johnson's, won none. Josh McDaniels had 6 and called every play for Brady. Ben Johnson's team just got eliminated in the playoffs by Jaden Daniels, and Jared Goff threw 3 interceptions, and you're acting like he was the savior. I would have acted like it was a great hire if we got him, because I like the principles of what he could have brought in. Youth, really a gung-ho guy, a new playbook that I think they desperately need around here, a new playbook around here that's more electric, eccentric, more unique, and he would have provided that. So now the Raiders are going to have to get a new head coach if that was the guy they wanted. And I don't know if that's the guy they wanted. I'm assuming it is, but no one can tell us this because Tom Brady and Mark Davis and the other 2 minority owners involved in this are keeping it really tight on what their selection process looks like. So anybody can report, well, in the room is Tom Brady, the other 2 owners who just bought in. They're in the room here, counsel, some lawyer. Okay, we know that. We don't know what they're talking about. We don't know what they're talking about. And Tom Brady has a complicated situation right now because he's got another job that pays him extremely well as a broadcaster for Fox, and he's got the NFC Championship game and the Super Bowl coming up. And he had several restrictions on what he could talk about. Very big restrictions on what he could talk about because of some of the rules of being a broadcaster and not being able to talk to Ben Johnson on the field or not being able to do that. And a lot of people have been hitting me up on text and Twitter saying, well, was this Ben Johnson's agent who was just using this to drive up the price for the Bears? No, I mean, the Bears are looking to spend a lot of money the Bears are to fix Caleb Williams. And for those who are saying Ben Johnson took the job over the Raiders because they have a quarterback and something to build on with the quarterback, they'd be right. Nothing wrong with that. We know, everyone in Raider Nation knows the quarterback is Aiden O'Connell. There needs to be a better one, period. They might draft one younger. They might bring in a free agent, but it's got to get better. And maybe Ben Johnson looked at that and said, I know the NFC North better. I think he took the job in Chicago because he coached in the NFC North. He knows the personnel better. He gets Caleb Williams. He gets Roma Dunze, DJ Moore. He gets a really good offense that completely needs to be broken down and rebuilt again. And he probably looked at that project and his wife and kids, whatever the location was, and said, yeah, this works. And they're going to pay me a boatload of money. Vegas sounded good on paper, but that looks like it's going to take a little bit longer because of their quarterback situation. And if that was the case, then go ahead and do it. Go ahead and do it and make the decision that you want. But for those who thought that Ben Johnson was going to be a lock to come to the Raiders, I don't know many people who said that. A lot of people are guessing that people were thinking that, but I would lay off the insiders and everybody else who you're trolling and calling hype men and trying to get in front of them like they're not doing their job right. How dare you? How dare you take a journalist who's out there working their ass off on the phone around the clock, trying to find out who's got the advantage over someone else and say they're wrong. They got it wrong. They didn't get it right. You're a fraud. What are you doing? You don't know anything. I mean, this is like a juvenile portion of the group that we're dealing with, man. And luckily, it's a tiny portion of the group, but sometimes it gets magnified because their idiotic tweets get right in front of our face when they hashtag us. I mean, look, it's not Ben Johnson. So do you want to do? I got a wine line open, a whiner line open. I got 9 lines. I got no one on hold. And I got 3 of them are for whiners and people who want to cry and be scared and go through their life and be nervous about everything that's going to happen every day. We can get you up on that line too. It just goes to Bobby directly. If you want to blank and moan about losing Ben Johnson, I would love nothing more than to do that for 2 hours. Then I'll go the hell home and come back tomorrow. That's a pretty easy day for me. That's why we're on Monday, which it feels like Monday. It's Tuesday. I clear out the show. We just have 2 guests, and I try to get everybody in here that wants to get in here and talk about this. But wow. I mean, for everybody else who's just out there, so many people because of social media, and we had the inauguration yesterday, and then we have just social media now, the ban of TikTok. My wife loves TikTok, recipes on TikTok. My kids like it. You got Instagram. So many people, what happens with social media, and I'm not very good at it, so don't look at me. So many people are insecure, but they're not insecure in real life. They can walk up to you and ask you a Raider question at a bar and be very secure and look you in the eye. But then they get on social media and they just become freaked out and insecure and nervous and the sky is falling and how are we going to get through this day? And I'm sitting here going, calm down. It'll all work itself out. You and I are going to have nothing to do with this decision. Do we all understand this? You and I have 0.000 to do with this decision. It's all being made by ownership on how they're trying to vet potential head coaching candidates who can come in here and improve this team quickly and drastically. So Ben Johnson is gone. I'd like your opinion on why so how do I open up the phones on this, Bobby, and say, why did we lose Ben Johnson? No one knows. So I'm just going to take calls on, well, we lost him because Brady wasn't allowed to talk to him or he didn't like the Raiders infrastructure. No, he took the job because it was a better job for him at this point in his life with his wife. That's it. It was a better job for him. So he took the job. He moves on, and we got to move on. But it would be easy for me to trash Ben Johnson today and start to go down that road. Well, he's young. He's never coached before. He's got no experience. He could be the next Josh McDaniels, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to do that to the guy because as you know me, and I think you're getting to know me more over the years, is I would have been right there shaking his hand when he came into the building and saying, good luck, coach, whatever I can do to help you, like I do with everyone. First thing I say, good luck, coach, whatever I can do to help you in this community, let me know. Said that to Dan Mullen at UNLV, everybody else. You welcome people in, and when they leave, like Tom Telesco and Antonio Pierce, you talk to them, you thank them, and you say, I really appreciate you coming into my life. Thank you for everything. And that's where we're at. So let me get to Pete Carroll. I don't know the sense of urgency to get Pete Carroll. But if you don't get Pete Carroll, then to me, it gets interesting. because Pete Carroll has looked at the Raiders and vetted the Raiders, and the Raiders know how good Pete Carroll is. The 73-year-old age is a non-topic. 73 years old, the young 73. He sat out a year. He's energized. He wants to coach. We know he's won at every level. We know he knows the league inside out. He's a really good game day coach. I wouldn't expect anyone in Raider Nation, if Pete Carroll was hired this week, to be negative about that. You'd have a winner who has beaten Andy Reid, Sean Payton, and Jim Harbaugh several times, and maybe that's exactly what we need right now. Either you need a young visionary play caller, or you need an experienced veteran coach who has won. And the only ones out there that make sense are Pete Carroll and Mike McCarthy, who's still available, because you know what you're going to get. You're going to get pure stabilization, coaches who know the infrastructure of a scouting department, a draft, free agency, a cap, and they know how to win games, and they win a lot of them. Those are the guys that are left. And then if you want to jump down to Cohen, Liam Cohen, some of the other guys, you want to give a coordinator a shot because you think that's the road to go down. Like Spycheck as a GM, I really like that with Pete Carroll. But if you want to go down the road of Aaron Glenn, a defensive coordinator, I don't think he's coming, but he could. I don't think so. We had a defensive guy in Pete Carroll and a lot of other people there. I don't think that's what the Raiders need now. I think the Raiders need an elite coach such as Pete Carroll, who seems to be one of the last guys standing, or they need someone who is a young offensive wizard. And look, Cliff Kingsbury's a name I want to bring up today too. And I always bring up Lincoln Riley because Lincoln Riley's more than prepared to be a coach, not the Raiders, anywhere. Much more. Lincoln Riley, you know how much more experience Lincoln Riley has than Ben Johnson? It's not even close. Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma, USC, where he's been, he was a Cowboy candidate 5 years ago to be a young head coach. So the young guys are out there. Cliff Kingsbury's interesting to me because the Raiders danced with him. He couldn't come to terms with the Raiders on the offensive coordinator position on the extra year of the contract. So the Raiders passed on him and got Luke Getsy. That looks like that was a bad decision. Kingsbury's name's right out there. He's coaching with Jaden Daniels. And I think that he wants to stay with Jaden Daniels. I mean, Cliff Kingsbury probably deep down inside is looking at that Washington job going, man, I could be here for 5 years and be Jaden Daniels' offensive coordinator and ask for a raise every year and get it. That might be better than being a head coach. But as we go around the league, I have all the names here in front of us, and the names are dwindling, but not that fast. Because I also believe, and I was honest with you, that Mike Vrabel was a great candidate. Mike Vrabel, I think Vrabel was in Brady's wedding. I mean, they're best friends. So if you were ever going to connect the dots with Tom Brady to Ben Johnson, you should have connected it to Vrabel. That was an easier connect the dots. Those guys are best friends. They vacation together. And Vrabel ended up leaving for the Patriots because Mr. Kraft, one of the more powerful owners in the sport, was able to go out there and do that. And they did that. And then the other name, because they're blowing up my chat here on YouTube, is John Gruden. You know, I think the world of Coach Gruden. I think the world of Coach Gruden. He is a dear friend. And if Coach Gruden comes back into our lives, you know, that'd be fantastic. Okay. But he's at Barstool now. There's a lot of things happening here. It doesn't look like he's in the interview process with a lot of these other teams. Maybe the next cycle. I think New Orleans and Jacksonville are making a tremendous mistake not going with John Gruden right now and going with Aaron Glenn or whoever they're thinking down there. You know, the former interim coach for New Orleans. You got John Gruden ready to coach right now. I think that's a bit of a mistake. But Pete Carroll, Pete Carroll is a stabilizing force. And I think if Pete Carroll came to the Raiders would be very fortunate to have him. Am I guaranteeing that he's coming? No, I'm not the guy who does that. So sometimes I have to take the shrapnel as you're throwing shrapnel at other people who are just trying to give good information. I'm happy I'm not getting the shrapnel, Bobby, on this one. No one's dropping into my DM saying, I heard you guaranteed Ben Johnson. No, I didn't. No, I don't, because I don't do that. I haven't done that in 27 years with this team. I've never guaranteed anybody coming in or anything. So that's where we're at today. I know Raider Nation is trying to be patient. I was talking to Steph McKenzie, the rock jock, in the parking lot when I came in. And she's like, how do you do this? I go, what do you mean? She goes, what are you going to talk about today? No one knows what's happening. I go, well, I'm going to do a talk show. I'm going to talk for 2 hours and see what happens. It's not hard to do what I do. But what happens is I understand what people are thinking. I understand what you're going through. I'm a season ticket holder. I want this team to win more than anything. My sons were born Raider fans. Okay, we want this to work. Yeah, I apologize that I get a couple of paychecks from them. I apologize for that. I work my ass off. Okay, I want the team to do great. I want them to do great things, and I want them to win. So you can enjoy that with me. And that will be my legacy. And for the people who don't understand that, the hell with them. I want this team to hire the best coach whenever available. I think the process, the amount of interviews that they've done, I think the vetting that they're doing is outstanding. They're interviewing multiple candidates, multiple GM candidates to try to figure this out. They absolutely have a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C. They do. And the big issue becomes the quarterback, because the Raider conspiracy theorists are saying Ben Johnson didn't take this job because the Raiders didn't have a quarterback. Well, you could be right. Caleb Williams was the number one pick overall. Pretty good quarterback to rebuild and put your hands around and go, I'm going to fix this kid. Then going, okay, all they have is Aiden O'Connell. I know that Aiden's a good player, but I need another quarterback here, and you don't have him. And that's what we're going to try to do. The priority to me now, because Ben Johnson is gone, the priority should be Pete Carroll, hopefully. And if Pete Carroll does not take the job or turns it down or isn't offered from it, it won't be the end of the world for me. But if it is Pete, I think it'll be great because I can talk about that and I can get behind it sincerely. You know, because I'm going to get behind any coach for obvious reasons. And all coaches that get hired in the NFL, it's easy to get behind the hiring process. They're young, they're smart, they're heavy on defense, offense. They just came off a Super Bowl victory, whatever it is. It's easy to understand why they're hired. But with a Pete Carroll, you at least know his history and track record and what he brings. If Pete Carroll's hired and he shows up at the owners meeting in a Raiders hoodie, and he takes that picture with all the coaches, you know, where Andy Reid wears the Hawaiian shirt and the other guy's doing this, you can at least point and say, Pete Carroll's beaten everyone in that picture. He's beaten their ass multiple times, everyone in that picture. And that wouldn't hurt. That wouldn't be a bad thing right now. But Tom Brady's involvement is important. And Tom Brady's here as an owner, not a consultant, because he wants to dramatically and quickly turn this around from everything that I've heard. How quickly is he going to do it? Ben Johnson felt like it had a long runway if they were able to get him, that he would have, you know, not a break it down and rebuild, but it would be like, look, you got years to get this right. You got 2-3 years to get this right because we got rid of McDaniels very quickly. It didn't work. We got rid of Coach Pierce very quickly, and Ben Johnson wouldn't have taken the job if he felt the organization was going to give him a year and a half. No chance. And maybe he feels like he can have that time with Caleb Williams in Chicago. So that's what we're getting into today. It's Tuesday. It feels like a Monday. Got a lot of people in our live chat. If you'd like to give me your rundown on what it should be like this week, I would assume that the Raiders would hopefully hire a coach this week because I live in Vegas, and Vegas is a risk-reward town, and I don't think that you want to wait really long to sit here and try to get your next option, because that player could be gone. That coach, the coach, candidate could be gone. And we're also competing against Jerry Jones because Dallas hasn't made a decision. We're also competing against the Jets in the number one media market. As I continue to tell you, I think Jacksonville's got the best roster of all these teams. They're looking for a coach, and they can swing quick and get it done. They could hire Aaron Glenn tonight, and they'd have a great hire. Defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn goes to Jacksonville, and he's off the table. And then we're starting to figure out what's going to happen next. So the big name is Dallas, because Dallas was interested maybe in Dion, Kellen Moore, Cliff Kingsbury, probably interested in a lot of the similar names that we are out here in Vegas. But, you know, don't waste my time with Pete Carroll's age. You'll get hung up on in a second. We're not going to age discriminate on this show. Okay? Human resources now runs the world. We're not going to sit around and go, well, Pete Carroll's too old. You have no idea what his stress test looks like and the shape he's in and how excited he is to get going. But is he the perfect fit for the Raiders at this time? Time will tell. 702-365-9200. Mikey in Staten, Italy, the sharp gambler who has Raiders season tickets. What's going on, Mikey?
My question to you I haven't heard Patrick Graham's name mentioned staying with the Raiders. Is he even under consideration? There's a big play right now with Jacksonville with him. Or is it this nonsensical Andy Rooney rule? I think he's a brilliant.
No, he is. He's a candidate. He was a candidate last year, and he was a candidate this year in Seattle, and he's a good coach. He's a good man. He's worked for other organizations. I think Patrick Graham is a viable candidate in Jacksonville, but I think Aaron Glenn is probably a little bit hotter of a name right now than Patrick Graham. But yes, he's legit.
Aaron Glenn better not get out of the Meadowlands today. JT, him and the assistant general manager come as a package deal. They worked together for 3 years with the Lions. They've been through the good times and the bad times. The Jet side of me says we need the Glenn, with the general manager 1-2. At least you guys listen. After we decompress after the next two football weekends. And we see you turn around. The Raiders had an amazing draft this year, an amazing draft. One or two more of these, and we'll be able to fight with your happens to be the toughest decision. Have a great day, JT.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Opens up a line for you, 702-365-9200. Yeah, I think it's going to move fast this week. All insiders say that after the divisional round, it moves very quickly. After the divisional round. But I didn't expect Detroit to lose. I had Detroit winning the Super Bowl. That was my Super Bowl pick. I didn't think we'd be able to talk to Ben Johnson, and that would have been really risky. Can you imagine if we had to wait till the Monday after the Super Bowl with nobody left and Ben Johnson turned the Raiders down for the Bears? What happens if the Bears had inside information that they were going to get him and the Raiders were hoping to get him, and then the day after the Super Bowl, we're sitting here and we don't get Ben Johnson and all these other guys are gone? It could be a blessing in disguise. It could be. But I'm not here to trash candidates that turned down the Raiders. Ben Johnson had a lot of leverage leaving Detroit, and he took that leverage into Chicago. Kelvin in San Francisco on the Raiders mobile app. Thanks for calling. What's happening?
Hey, JT, thanks for the call. Like most, I was pretty disappointed yesterday, but after a good night's sleep, I'm over it now. I'm pretty excited for Pete Carroll. I don't see how any Raider fan wouldn't want him. He's got to be priority number one. Just he's a Hall of Fame coach. For me, he moves the needle. Just my picks after Brian Flores after Pete Carroll. Just wanted to throw out there. I wouldn't mind seeing Brian Flores getting the look, and Cliff Kingsbury. Kind of one thing that made me settle down a little bit with the Ben Johnson is I thought he called a pretty poor game against Washington. That the wide receiver end around throw, having Williams throw into triple coverage, probably cost them the game. I know he was taking a lot of heat for that call. So Pete Carroll all the way. Pretty excited about that. Also want to throw out there the quarterback situation. I think that's actually more important than the head coach. We got to, like you said, thread the needle on that one. Just want to throw my opinion in the ring too. I would absolutely love to see Aaron Rodgers come to Vegas and then groom a quarterback. We can draft one either first round, second round, third round. Let him sit behind Rodgers. I think it's a no-brainer. He's going to take a pay cut to come here. And I live out in the Bay Area. If I get to come out and see Pete Carroll coaching with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, I'm coming out there in a heartbeat to watch. So that's my 2 cents. Thanks for the call. Curious.
Yep, thank you. Appreciate it. Look, again, I'm a Pete Carroll fan. I've always been a Pete Carroll fan. What we thought about a couple of weeks ago, because it was thrown out there, I forget by who, was there a combination of Pete Carroll and Robert Saleh. If something happened where Pete Carroll was the head coach and Robert Saleh was the assistant head coach, because people are saying, well, Robert Saleh to the 49ers as defensive coordinator. Robert Saleh is interviewing for head coaching positions, not defensive coordinator positions. So the way I think what you can do is to throw a carrot out in front of Robert Saleh. And you say Pete Carroll's the head coach, but you are in the plan to take over for him at some point as assistant head coach, defensive coordinator. I'd be good with that. I mean, I think everybody would be good with Pete Carroll, Robert Saleh. That'd be really good. I'd be good with Mike McCarthy and Robert Saleh, defensive coordinator, or any type of conversation like that. But today is a really simple day for me. I can see through this carnage that some Raider fans are freaking out about. It's next guy up. We've been dealing with that for a while. When you don't draft well, like we haven't drafted well in this town, when you don't have an elite quarterback, which we haven't been able to get in this town, not for lack of trying, it just has been, we're behind, we can't seem to get that quarterback. All right? And I'm telling you that a Pete Carroll would not come in here and he would not blink. Ben Johnson would come in here and he'd look around and go, whoa, okay, I got to fix this offense. There's a couple of players I want. Get the rest of them out. And let me break this down to the studs. Keep Brock Bowers, Colt Miller. Who else? Jackson Powers Johnson, Jacoby Myers. All right, the rest of everybody else, I kind of think you're okay, but you're not good enough for me. And we're going to kind of clear this out, and I'm going to start over again. I think Pete Carroll can come in and take the roster that's available and will be upgraded, because the Raiders will have plenty of money in free agency. They have a lot of draft equity. If you tell Pete Carroll at the end of free agency in the draft, hey, Pete, here's your projected roster, he'd run outside, scream in the air at the torch, and go, I can win with these guys. That's the type of guy he is. And maybe that's what the Raiders need at this moment. And if they don't get him, then trust the process, because they're really trying to vet this correctly. 702-365-9200. Chris Myers from the NFL on Fox next hour. Jeff Sherman over at the Westgate. Man, how about the gambling? What happened on Kansas City when they ran out of the back of the end zone? And that affected the spread. Oh, boy. Some of the NFL spreads and what it looks like now as we preview the championship weekend. So the number, if you want to get through, 702-365-9200. I'm on X at JT the Brick. Still like saying Twitter. And we're flying on YouTube, where we got a big crowd in here, where we get to keep the show going before we come back. Brought to you by Tito's Handmade Vodka.
You can stay in touch with your favorite stations and shows no matter your location by simply
What's
downloading.
happening, everyone? Good to see you. 1 second. Got to send a text.
Go to the App Store or Google Play and search LV Sports Network. Download and you are good to go. Raider Nation Radio, ESPN Las Vegas, Fox Sports Las Vegas, 12:30 The Game. It's all part of the LV Sports Network and can all be streamed live on the LV Sports Network app. Download it today.
Sundays are for football inside the Suncoast. Step into the future of sports betting. Experience mega wall-to-wall screens, massive stadium seating, state-of-the-art audio, and exclusive VIP seating for the epic game day experience. Get food delivered right to your seat for the ultimate fan VIP treatment. Each week.
All right. I'm getting text messages to pick up some Mad Dog Sports Radio shifts, which I normally don't do, but I like to pick up radio shifts before the Super Bowl. Right, Bobby? That's good, because it's easier. Yeah. Yeah.
Over 500 cigar labels to choose from. Plus, they feature one of the largest whiskey, scotch, and
Big D, everybody behaving. Hammer the like button, please. Only 49 likes. That's kind of like that's not good. Why did they fire Telesco? Surfer Bob, where you been? They fired Telesco so they'd have a system in place without a GM and a head coach. So that would be intriguing for the candidates not to have to work for another GM. Now, you never have to answer that question again, because I just nailed it for you. That's why they got rid of Telesco, which is disappointing because we like Telesco.
If you've been injured, call Richard Harris, the Richard Harris Law Firm, 444-4444, just in case.
JT, you know, I always say, eat like a champion with Raising Cane's. Bring home a box combo.
All right, Saturday. What's today's date? Today's date is the 21st. So this Saturday is the 25th. And I'll be on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Put this in my phone. 1 to 5 p.m. 1 to 5 p.m. That's a good shift. I'm like a bartender, man. I'm like a sports radio bartender. I work shifts. I used to give a shit. Seriously, this is good content. I used to give a shit where I worked. I did 8 hours a day, double shifts. Now I don't give a shit. I'm like a bartender. You say, hey, you can do 4 hours in the afternoon or 3 hours at night. I take the shifts because I've been doing this a while. I've done well. Stock market's good. Real estate's good. And I can pick and choose where I want to work. And I got the bricklayers on the YouTube, which is good too. And that's starting to be a nice revenue stream without me asking for tips. Because I'm not a tip guy. I'm not asking you for a tip. I'm just saying thank you for being generous and watching and helping us build this out.
That's important when you're getting a gift that means a lot.
So Amber Theo Harris said the Raiders shouldn't waste their time. Okay. Maybe I'll text Amber and ask her if she wants to do that.
Or go to thejewelers.com.
Hi, I'm Miley O'Keefe. In competitive gymnastics, flexibility and precision.
Oh, we got a lot of sound to play. We had the national championship. Ohio State won. That was pretty impressive. Well, you're picking up background audio because we're in a radio station, my friend. So I'm not going to apologize for that.
Here we go. It's going to be Saquon Barkley.
All right. Saquon Barkley. That'd be a good player to have, wouldn't it? I think of my new holder now. I got my new clicker. Look at that. Perfect. My new stand. The Yeti mic.
Welcome back to the JT the Brick Show, brought to you by Modelo Especial, the new #1 beer in the U.S.
On first down, he goes to Barkley. He breaks a tackle. He's on his line. Here he goes. He's at the 30, 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown! Saquon Barkley, 78 yards.
That's Saquon Barkley. What a year he's having for the Eagles. The two teams that I despise most in sports are the Eagles and the Chiefs. True story. The two teams, the Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think that's going to be the Super Bowl unless Buffalo comes through. I'm all in on Buffalo. So I think that's going to be the priority of this week, Bobby. Everything we have is into Buffalo. Buffalo, if they beat Kansas City, I think they'll win the Super Bowl. If Buffalo doesn't beat Kansas City, I think Kansas City will three-peat. They'll be the greatest team of all time, and we will take the brunt of the shrapnel in Raider Nation for that. That's something hard to come back from. If Kansas City three-peats to become the greatest team of all time, group team, no one's ever three-peat, then we're going to take a lot of that shrapnel. Chargers aren't going to. No one cares about the Chargers. And, Denver's had success. They've won 3 Super Bowls like the Raiders. But Kansas City despises the Raiders more than any team, and they will rub it in. We need them to be beat at all costs. I don't know many people that are in my category of being that aggressive about it, but that's one of the things about being on Raider Nation Radio, on top of the other shows I'm on, is I despise the Chiefs, and I want them to lose. How do you have a radio show in corporate America today and not root against teams? You watch some of these guys in the morning on the TV shows, and they don't have a team. They've been doing it for 30 years, and they don't have a team, which means they don't go to games. They don't go to games with their kids with jerseys on, but they have television shows and radio shows. Don't give me this journalist crap. You don't get into sports media for 25 or 30 years without having a team, and then all of a sudden you give up your team. I mean, I've been here for a long time. I grew up a Giant fan. I was very transparent with that. But, almost 30 years with the team, I don't have to sell that anymore. But when I look at the situation that's happening now, with people changing their opinion every week, I stuck with Detroit. Detroit was my pick to win it all this year. I am in absolute shock that Detroit lost. I am blown away that I'm talking about Ben Johnson as the Bears coach today and not still coaching for the Lions and about to win a Super Bowl 3 weeks from now. That's a lot of time. Because remember, there's a Super Bowl bye week. And if you look at all this, how the hell are we dealing with Ben Johnson today as a topic? Because they lost and they got blown out. They gave up 45 to Jaden Daniels. Incredible to me. Raider Jay is out in San Jose. Thank you, Jay. What's going on?
Hey, Steve, my man, how you doing? You know I listen to you all the time. I'm in New York and San Jose, but I listen to you every day and at night too.
Thank you.
But listen, man, I want to talk about Pete Carroll. Because he should have been the first #1. But before I get to him, I just got to say something about Justin Herbert. When somebody shows you who they are, you got to believe them. We got to pump the brakes on this guy. with the elite tag. He's got elite talent, but so did Derek Carr. He has just as much talent, or Derek Carr has just as much arm talent, I think, as he does. But yet we're crowning this guy with the elite tag, and he didn't show up against Houston, who you said was trash. He didn't show up against them and show up in the other playoff game. And look, he's a streaky guy. So until he shows some consistency, I don't think he deserves the elite tag because he's not consistent.
Yeah, but I think it's fair to give him. I think it's fair to give him the elite talent category. You're right. If you don't win a playoff game, you're 0-2 career-wise in the playoffs, as Jaden Daniels is already 2-0. I get it, but I know how good of a player Herbert is. Herbert is an elite talent. He's an elite talent.
Hello?
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah.
He's an elite talent, and Herbert eventually is going to win. And if you have that much talent, Justin Herbert is going to be on a better team with Jim Harbaugh. This is the worst team he's going to play on under Harbaugh. He's a concern to me because I think he's got big arm talent.
Well, JT, look, you see what Harbaugh did. Harbaugh took the ball away from him, right? He took the ball away. He took the ball away from him and made him run the ball because he must see something that we don't. I don't know what it is, but again, I think the jury is still out. But I want to get to Pete Carroll, man. We got to stop hiring, being a training ground for these coaches, for new head coaches. Let's go and get Pete Carroll, who will come and stabilize the organization, build the fact that we another.
Your phone's breaking up, buddy. I appreciate you. You had a lot of good things to say. Look, there's two different camps of Raider fans. Raider fans don't want older coaches. God forbid Raider Nation, Bobby, finds out that Pete Carroll once coached the Patriots. Don't let Raider Nation know that.
Don't say that.
Don't say that to Raider Nation. Don't let them know that he was associated at all with the Patriots. If they do that, then it's going to be problems here. But Pete Carroll, he's a winner. And if the Raiders want to hire a winner right now that can help, people want to – I'm around the team a lot. Okay, the energy around the team was great last year. They lost 10 games in a row, and they didn't blink. How many times did Antonio Pierce sit across from me and say, we don't blink? We're going to come back and win next week. He meant it. He meant it, and they played super hard. So that's what they do. They play hard under Antonio Pierce, but they lost 10 in a row. He's out. Tom Telesco, I thought, had a really good draft. First 3 picks were fine by me, but it seemed like they moved Tom because they wanted to go in a different direction with a new package. And if that package is Spy Tech and Pete Carroll, we'll understand this. But we're getting to the point where a decision is going to have to be made here pretty quickly. And if it's not made quickly because they're trying to vet the difference between 1 or 2 guys who they're confident they're going to get, they have intel that one of these 2 guys are going to come no matter what, but they just want to make sure they vet another guy, I could wait another week. But when it comes to this week, I'm surprised Ben Johnson is off the board from the Raiders because I didn't see Ben Johnson losing. Didn't see that happening. I was all in on Detroit Buffalo in the Super Bowl, and Detroit absolutely crashed and burned. Jeff Sherman over at the Westgate, the vice president of risk management, on the new lines that are out. If you're a gambler, it's one of the important interviews we do every week from a guy who sets the line on how to bet all this stuff coming up and a recap of what happened with Ohio State's victory. Some water here. Hire Pete Carroll. The Bears definitely owe us. Maybe Ben Johnson not in the silver and black's a good thing from early riser. Well, maybe you're right. Probably would have been great if he signed here. Then everyone would have been happy about Ben Johnson. But Bobby, can you lower that a bit? Thanks. Yeah, there's not a lot of news today. Nothing official other than
Andrew's
Ben
2-point
Johnson.
conversion coming back.
Okay. See what's here, the sport, blah, blah, blah. Morning show. It's a good time to hibernate, man, when you don't have any news. You want John Gruden. John Gruden is, you're not hearing much about John Gruden. My son jumps in and says, I'm so happy the Raiders didn't get pipsqueak Ben Johnson. Wow, look at that. That's a popping hot take. Yeah, Joe Brady's someone I'd interview, but I think Todd Monken's name I've been hearing, the Baltimore Ravens OC, is a pretty good name too.
Hey, Jeff, it's Bobby. How you doing? Good, man. Good. I'll get you up with JT. Give me about 2 minutes, okay? Raider Nation, what's your name? Andy, what's your name? Hold on.
Hotel of the Henderson Silver Knights.
Trying to get tickets on my Ticketmaster account. I'm going to the Eagles. Excited about that.
Are you really?
What happened to our Chad here? Oh.
You're open 30, and this is the Andrew's 2-point conversion. Jeff's all set.
Excavation of plaster and spring pools today, and we'll get started on your training pool. Modelo is an official cerveza of the Las Vegas Raiders and the JT the Brick Show. Modelo Especial is a rich, full-flavored Pilsner style lager, delivering a crisp, refreshing taste, brewed with fighting spirit since 1925.
Welcome back to the JT the Brick Show. Brought to you by Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers. One love.
For the tie, the 2-point conversion. Lamar takes a snap, rolls to the right, throws, complete, no! Drop it! Mark Andrews hit him in the hands! And Mark Andrews dropped it as he fell into the end zone.
One of the most sure-handed players the Ravens in Ravens history dropped it right in the hands.
That's Hall of Famer Rod Woodson on the call there as the analyst. And the drop of Mark Andrews was absolutely brutal. It wasn't a great throw by Lamar Jackson. Jeff Sherman joins us, a VP of risk management over at the Westgate. So, Jeff, walk us through that game, the total, the in-game, and what was happening there, because Lamar, 3 turnovers in total for Baltimore and none for Buffalo, who played a clean game. All right, so tell me about this game going forward for Buffalo and Kansas City and what you initially thought right after the game, seeing how Buffalo was doing and set the line and what kind of movement we saw after that. Walk me through the total, considering the weather and the forecast you have ahead of time and what you think could happen. All right, well, let's talk about the money line of Jaden Daniels and the Commanders coming into the game in Detroit. I thought Detroit would win the game. That was my Super Bowl pick. Was there sharp money coming in on the Commanders coming into that game, or for them just to lose and cover the spread? Okay. Yeah, that's what I was going to get to next. But just one more thing on Detroit with the futures odds of Detroit to win the Super Bowl. I'm sure there was a decent size handle on that all year long. Was it building as of late? All right, let's get to the game last night and what you think about that. As Notre Dame opened up with that unbelievable opening drive, took a lot of time off the clock. They were up 7-0, and I'm wondering if there was some Notre Dame money coming in game there because Ohio State was a heavy favorite. Walk me through what your theory was in general about this great one for Ohio State. After the Michigan loss, they had the toughest gauntlet. They did not have a bye week at all, and they were able to run the table there. I think it's one of the greatest gauntlet runs that I've seen in God knows how long. Yeah, very interesting. Do you think after doing this and with everybody in your room, the seating needs to be tweaked, especially the bye week when Boise State, Arizona State got bye weeks? So you think that'll change dramatically quickly, or they'll leave it alone? Are the sharp money coming in on the Eagles? I saw it opened around 4.5. I see sixes, and what you're doing. Tell us about the Eagles spread going up against the Commanders at home, weather related. Mm-hmm. Right. So how about Super Bowl odds going forward with Buffalo and Kansas City, the roadblock potentially for Buffalo, and then possibly the Commanders to win out from here? Anything drastically what's going on with the Dodgers? I don't have a lot of time to do that. I'm going to mention it in the second hour of the show. I mean, they are buying everyone at every position, including two closers, middle relief. It's the strongest lineup maybe I've ever seen financially on paper. Has that changed the odds for them in the National League and the World Series? Wow. Yeah, I'm looking at that right now. That's an unbelievable number here. So, wow, I thought that was a little bit light too. I heard some guys today talking about 108, 109. That seems like a value play here. So, lastly, we went over Super Bowl. We're going over everything. I saw you had some gambling on this Tiger Golf League. Tell me about that and what that market's been like and the handle here, Atlanta for New York coming up, because it looks like a tremendous gambling sport, in my opinion, going forward. Mm. What's the maximum you can bet on this? Okay. Interesting. Do you envision this a year or two from now where the in-game gambling on this sport and the simulator golf is going to explode? Okay. Mm. Great. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you before the Super Bowl. Thank you so much. Jeff Sherman over at the Westgate. So you get some sharp play. As he told you about the Eagles, how they had to move that. They took some big Eagles money and then had to go to 6.5 on the Eagles. And he said that's pricey in town, but he's a sharp guy, and that's why he moved it. That's the sharp book there. So Commanders plus 6.5. And how do you not like the Commanders to cover that game, even if they don't win in Philadelphia? And for those who bet Commanders money line, that was a sharp play. Chris Myers from the NFL on Fox next hour. We will keep it going here on YouTube at JT the Brick YT. That's the YouTube channel where we're never off during the show. Come on in and join us. Make some new internet friends. We're brought to you by the M Resort Spa and Casino. So I've been multitasking. Is there anything more bullshit than having to reset your fucking password for a ticket app to get tickets to the Eagles,
Yes.
where my password doesn't work because I guess I haven't used it in 6 months?
I just had to do that 2 weeks ago on Ticketmaster. Check out some
Yeah,
highlights.
I will.
We'll put some highlights next.
So that's what I'm dealing with. What else is going on, everybody? No sound for the caller. That was my mistake. Sorry about that. That was my bad. I was too focused on doing something else. I am crashing out. Oh, yes. So what else? What else is happening? Yeah, I hate that crap too. I'm not good. My family knows I'm not very good with passwords. I'm not very good with passwords. But I'm not very good with apps that freeze. And you know, when you go into an app and you try to do something, and the next thing you know, you try to accept your ticket, and you hit accept your ticket, and then you put in your password that you remember, and it says, no, you need to update your password. So just going through that now. I apologize for that for a moment. So got to go through every tab. But I'm going to go see the Eagles at Sphere, which is pretty damn cool. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. That's going to be a really good show. And I'm excited about that. And that'll be a lot of fun. Like good live music. Yes, my kid deserves his own show.
The place for all your Raiders coverage is right here on Raider Nation Radio, 920 AM.
JT from Virgin Hotels Las Vegas. We have something for everyone to enjoy. Get your tickets now to some great shows. February 14th, come rock out. The Theory of a Dead Man's Acoustic Show.
Eagles are Eagles. No, I don't support the Eagles, as you know.
big game. Lock in your reservations for the Cassie Bowl. Cassie Beach House will host an unforgettable game day celebration. All at Virgin Hotels, Las Vegas.
So who do you want as the Raider head coach? We got new audience in here. Start filling up the box. Let me know. Pete's. I'm getting some Pete's in here. Yeah, I'll do this in a minute.
Yeah. Eric. Hello, Eric. Good, have you leading off. Be ready. Okay, Tom?
Yep. So what do you want to do here? Yep. Thanks. All right, Eric and Salinas.
Sure.
Okay, we got that. Tell AP and Telesco to hold on. We might have to fire them after the draft. All right. Would Gruden even want to come back? Look at all these John Gruden people, man. Wow. All right.
Broadcasting live from the Finley Cadillac Performance Studio.
Raiders bring a blitz. He takes up off the middle, and he's wrapped up from behind. Max Crosby.
Your silver and black home to sound off for over 25 years.
Over to the 35, racing to the 20, 10, touchdown Raiders.
And now, here's JT the Brick.
All right, we're covering the breaking news story. Ben Johnson, the Detroit offensive coordinator, selects the Chicago Bears, and he'll be the next head coach of the Bears, and everybody is all over that topic today. It's official. He was there, and everybody is now, they welcomed him into the building. I was in the building when we welcomed Tom Brady in. The entire organization came to the stairways and was giving Brady a rounding, standing ovation. The Raiders did when Brady came in, and the same thing happened with Ben Johnson today. It's like they copied the Raiders welcoming. He walked through the front, and the whole organization was there to give him a standing ovation, and he's the guy. So if you thought the Raiders were that team that were going to get him first, you were wrong. But it's not wrong to speculate that he was going to go to the Raiders. I'm speculating today Pete Carroll's next. If I get that wrong, what are you going to do? Are you going to blame me? I mean, Pete Carroll should be next. If Pete Carroll doesn't take it or they go somewhere else, we'll let you know about it. But Pete Carroll has already interviewed, and it was a long interview, no doubt about it. And I think that Pete would probably want this opportunity for his lifestyle, West Coast. You say the AFC West, he's beaten these AFC West coaches in the past. So I am excited about the potential of Pete Carroll coming in. I'm not going to say that I wanted Pete more than Ben Johnson. I'm not going to say I wanted Ben Johnson more than Pete. I figured those were the two candidates. Raiders are going to hire the best one at the time, the best one who fits into the system. So with all that being said, Ben Johnson's off the table. If you'd like to spend the rest, the next 55 minutes about why he passed on that deal, probably the big speculation is he wanted to work with Caleb Williams. I think it's even more than that. I think he wanted to coach in that division. I really do. He knows the division well. That's all he's done the last couple of years is break down every defense. Who knows the defense of the Minnesota Vikings and the Green Bay Packers better than Ben Johnson? Ben Johnson knows that division inside and out. Now he gets Caleb Williams to come in there and rebuild him, and they're going to have an opportunity to do this. The Lions had a top 5 offense in each of his seasons, as the offensive coordinator, 22, 23, and 24. And if you're thinking he didn't come to the Raiders because the Raiders don't have a quarterback, the Raiders do have a quarterback. It's Aiden O'Connell. Is he elite? No. Does he have an elite talent? No. I don't think now you can say Aiden O'Connell has the ability to be an elite quarterback because of his lack of leg movement. His lack of leg movement is the problem. He doesn't have the ability to be explosive outside the pocket. And Bo Nix does. And Patrick Mahomes always has been able to do that. And when you look at this division, Justin Herbert has got the best arm talent that I might see in the entire league. And I'll get to Jaden Daniels coming up here. That's a bit of a shock. Do you think Sam Darnold's still available in the game? Yeah, I think Sam Darnold, that's quiet. We're not anywhere near NFL free agency yet. Is there a combination that Pete Carroll could come in here and work with a veteran quarterback? Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, Sam Darnold. Yeah, there's an opportunity for that to happen here. The one thing that I like about a potential Pete Carroll hire is I don't think there's going to be any uncertainty. Because if the Raiders would have hired Ben Johnson, I think it would come down to the fact that Ben Johnson would be the guy that everybody would say, I hope it works. I hope. But then other people would say, we have no guarantee that a 37-year-old who's never coached a game is going to be elite building a roster with Tom Brady and the new GM. There would have been a lot more question marks. And for people that are wondering about Pete Carroll or Mike McCarthy, I've had a couple of people come into our chat session today saying, I'm good with Mike McCarthy. Well, I thought Mike McCarthy was going to get that Chicago job going into the weekend because I didn't think Chicago could afford to wait to Ben Johnson to go to the Super Bowl. But everything changed. And as soon as Ben Johnson was beat and Detroit was beat, those individuals, especially at the Bears, were like, let's go get him. And if the report is true, and there's a couple of, we're not going to know until it's a done deal in regards to the contract, but if they're going to pay him $13 million, come on, that's a little bit absurd. And I think every Raider fan could say, we're paying Antonio Pierce, we're paying John Gruden, we're paying Josh McDaniels, we're paying Tom Telesco, right? We're paying a lot of guys, Dave Ziegler, who are no longer here. Do you really have $13 million to pay the coach and build out a staff? It's a lot of money. I think Mark's very generous with his money. You never hear of an issue with money with the Raiders. All those knuckleheads are gone. Oh, the Raiders are the cheapest team. The owner has no money. The owner has plenty of money. This team is making money daily, and they're going to put it back into the football team. What about Cliff Kingsbury? Is that someone that you'd go back to? Why would Kingsbury leave right now? Say Kingsbury can get $1 million raise as offensive coordinator under new ownership with Dan Quinn. Would he want to leave Jaden Daniels? I think he would to be a head coach. In Vegas? You remember when Cliff Kingsbury was the coach in Arizona and he had that cool place on the mountain with the pool? They took the picture on draft day where he's kicking back at his house. I think he'd like living in Vegas, somewhere in Southern Highlands or in the Ridges in Summerlin, and have a pretty good life if he's a head coach here. But we're at that point now where we've got to figure out what's going to happen next. I think that Pete Carroll is probably the front runner, and I'd like to see Pete Carroll get the job because I think Pete would be a stabilizing force with the entire organization right now. And do I like stability? Yeah. But I also like risk-taking, and Ben Johnson I would have been fine with because I think he would have took a lot of risks with the offense. Whoever is the coach has got to get a quarterback. And the GM, they got to get a quarterback now because people believe people are turning down the Raiders because they don't have a quarterback. And I don't think that's fair to Aiden O'Connell when everybody on these talk shows say the Raiders don't have a quarterback. What disrespect is that? They have Aiden O'Connell, and they'll have two more quarterbacks here. They'll have a veteran and maybe a rookie. So they're going to have plenty. Don't worry about the Raiders having a quarterback. I think we all know that's priority number one. Eric and Salinas. Thanks for calling in, Eric. What's happening?
You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
About Pete Carroll, I see it all over Twitter. I see everybody, a lot of the Raider Nation bashing a lot of our beat writers, basically claiming like it's their fault that we didn't get Ben Johnson. Tired of seeing it. I'm tired of reading it, to be honest. I think you guys are doing a great job. You guys are working with what you guys are dealt with. But that being said, Pete Carroll, I see a lot of people talking about he's too old, he's out of shape, he's 73. Pete Carroll's not your average 73-year-old. I think you and I both know JT. Dude's in great shape. I think he would be great for the locker room. And in my opinion, I think he would probably be the third best coach in our division. We have Andy Reid, we have Harbaugh, We have Sean Payton, and to be honest, I'm not very impressed with what Sean Payton has done in Denver. I think they got lucky with Bo Nix. I think Sean Payton owes a lot of his career winnings to Drew Brees, to be completely honest. I'm not impressed with what they're doing in Denver. Not worried about him. But I think Pete Carroll would be a great addition to that locker room, to the culture. And I can maybe go on a limb and say he's kind of a quarterback guru. He did well when he was in Seattle with Russell Wilson. He did well when he was at USC. Great locker rooms, great winning teams. He has Super Bowl experience. I think he's right up there with those head coaches that we see in our division. And I don't see the same people saying the same thing about Andy Reid. Nobody says Andy Reid's too old to coach. Nobody says Andy Reid's too out of shape to coach. I don't know why that has to do with anything at all.
Well, I don't think anybody's saying Pete Carroll is, thanks for the call, out of shape. I don't think anybody's saying Pete Carroll can't handle the workload and any of that. I don't think that there's any of that going on right now. I think that everybody understands that Pete Carroll took a year off. He left unceremoniously in Seattle. I don't like the way that ended for him here. And I think he's completely focused. And as Bob is saying in my chat, he's younger than our president now. And we're not looking around saying that the guy can't do the job because of any health or age restrictions. None of that. And none of that will be accepted on this show if Pete Carroll's the head coach. None of that will ever be accepted. There will never be an age discrimination show for me about a guy's too old and this and that. That's just, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of people trying to predict what other people's personal lives are like. No one has the right to do that. Pete Carroll would be cool. Now, if Pete Carroll was the head coach and he was mentoring the next head coach, that'd be cool. I'd like to see that. I'm into mentoring people. I was mentored. I think it's important if Pete Carroll's going to be the coach of the Raiders, if he is, that you bring in someone. Same with Mike McCarthy. If this new title of assistant head coach, remember Marvin Lewis was assistant head coach. Marvin was a successful coach in this league for a while. I think that's a really important thing. When you get the tag assistant head coach, then you can get a raise and you could be the offensive and defensive coordinator and you could be groomed to be the man in waiting. No problem with that at all. And we'll see how it plays out. But Pete's the type of guy that if he walked in and they had an introductory press conference, that'd be pretty cool. I've seen a lot around here throughout my career. If Pete Carroll walked into Henderson, there was a press conference with the 3 Super Bowl trophies and Pete in a black blazer with the Raider logo on it. That'd be pretty damn cool. That'd be fun to see if that's going to be the case. And for those who are asking me, I can't believe how many people are asking me about Mike McCarthy. I've met Mike, and Mike was really good to me in a time of need when we needed him. You know, Mike McCarthy, as an offensive Super Bowl play caller, you know, I'd like Mike McCarthy with Dak. I'd like Dak to come over and Mike McCarthy and Dak to be here as a 1-2 punch. That'd be pretty cool because I think Dak in the prime of his career now, but they just gave him ungodly money. And the Cowboys might want Deion and Shador. And then there's Deion. Is Deion a wild card out there? None of the insiders are reporting. The only news today is that Aaron Glenn is having a second interview with the Jets. And then he's going to go to New Orleans. And probably, if I'm the Jets, I don't let Aaron Glenn out of the building. Yeah. I don't let him out of the building. So you're not leaving. We're going to put the deal together and try to make you the head coach. That's why it's tough. You don't want guys to leave the building. Al Davis was notorious for that. You came for an interview for Al Davis. You weren't going home for 3 days. Gruden talked about it on Barstool. He put you on the whiteboard, and as Gruden told the story, he'd ask you everything about every player around the league. Imagine sitting down with Al Davis, and he's asking you, oh, that receiver, where did he go to high school? Where did he go to college? And you're like, I don't know. You know, he would put you on the whiteboard for 6-7 hour sessions. Take a small dinner break. You go stay at the Oakland Airport Hilton. You're back there the next day for 12 hours. I'm sensing that's the type of vetting going on with Mark and the new owners who are there. And if you noticed anything about this, the new owners are in the vetting process with Tom Brady, okay, as if the room is that tight. So they're working hard over there in Henderson, man. They're trying to get this right. And we'll see what the next breaking news is on this. It's a quiet day today, Bobby. Very quiet day today. And people don't want quiet when they tune into radio. They want clappers and guys wearing costumes and stupid hats acting like idiots. Sorry, not here. We're just going to try to give you what we know and move on. Juan in Corona. Thanks for checking in. Appreciate you.
Hey, appreciate you. Just wanted your thoughts. I haven't really heard this mentioned, but with the Pete Carroll talk, and you know, he has top candidate for president being reported. I actually would like to know what you think if, and I don't remember how Russell Wilson and him ended their tenure in Seattle, but what do you think about Russell Wilson as an option for the Raiders? I know he's highly respected and everything, and he's not going to take a pay cut, obviously, again, but a 2-year deal and then bringing in somebody, because as we said, we're going to have to give up the world if we want to trade up for 1 and 2. So what do you think about bringing him as a stopgap?
I would have liked that a lot last year. I don't think that Pete, and I don't know anything about their relationship, but I think they've both been there, done that. If it was turned out that if we got Russell Wilson last year, but going into last season, I would have been thrilled. And you heard me on the show. I thought Baker Mayfield before that and Russell Wilson was a much better option. But that's a tough question to ask me because I think Russell Wilson, if he came here as a quarterback, he'd be good. I think he's got a few years left, but I would have much rather have done that deal last year before Pete or the next coach is announced.
Agree, and I think with the way he ended the season, obviously it's going to hurt him a little bit, kind of like Sam Darnold. So, just reading some of these apps, even throwing him out there,
Yeah.
I would think that Russell Wilson would be an intriguing option because with that 6 big, we could definitely use it to bolster the offensive line or grab a weapon for him. But the offense does have pieces. We just got to get that quarterback situation settled. Thank you, JT.
Yeah, 702-365-9200 is the number if you want to call in. We'll get you up here on the radio and want to hear from you about this today because today is an important day. Today is an important day as a Raider fan to try to figure out what they're going to do next. And we don't know what they're going to do next other than who they've interviewed. And Spy Tech is a potential GM who worked with Brady. A lot of people said, well, what about Spy Tech and Ben Johnson? Well, Ben Johnson's gone. Now there's a list of other candidates that are out there that I think are getting vetted by Tom Brady, Mark, and this agency that they're using to try to get these appointments set up. And it takes work. It takes work to schedule this all out. An executive told me last week that there's a chance that if there's a chance that the divisional round, and this executive I spoke to did not think that Ben Johnson was going to lose, but he said it gets really fast when something goes down in a divisional round upset. And we saw it. And I didn't think it would be Detroit. I didn't think it was going to be Detroit being the team that shocked us all. If it was the Eagles losing and the Eagles had a candidate like Kellen Moore, you'll want to look at that, okay. But I did not think it was going to be Detroit at all. I thought we had 2 more weeks of waiting on Ben Johnson. 2 more weeks. And then it would have got really antsy and nerve-wracking if Ben Johnson wasn't sure about that. If he wasn't sure about that and we waited till the very end of the dance where everybody was off the dance floor and we were hoping Ben Johnson would want to meet us on the dance floor, good luck with that. Okay, I don't care how much you think the vetting process is good, bad, or indifferent. I didn't want to wait that long for a decision. Big Al in San Francisco, always appreciate you listening.
JT, if I was a Green Bay Packer fan, which I'm not, I would be really happy the Chicago Bears are in my division because they just keep doing things more stupid and stupid as the McClaskey family gets older and older. They need an experienced coach. They don't need a newbie offensive coordinator. We all know Johnson had a good 2.5-year run, 2.5-year plus run in Detroit, but nobody really knows if he can be a head coach. They had a guy in their hip pocket. I don't care if he's a defensive coach. They'll hire the right offensive coordinator, a guy that's a Chicago Bear through and through, a 1985 Bear champion the last time. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. The only time they ever won a Super Bowl, and that's Ron Rivera. But, again, they went cheap. And in this world, you pay for what you get. Congratulations, Chicago. Green Bay is up there and clapping. Oh, and the Vikings probably are too.
So, but Big Al, weren't you interested on Ben Johnson coming to the Raiders or not?
No, not necessarily. No.
All right.
I never said that. The Raiders are in the same situation. They need an experienced guy too, and they notoriously have gone for the Lane Kiffins of the world, and of course we all know what happened with Antonio, and it was a big splurge when they went back and they went for John Gruden. When you have franchises like that, you need to bring in some experienced people to turn this thing around. The Raiders are 2 years away at least, and the Bears are probably 2 years away. So, but the Bears went cheap. I hope the Raiders don't.
Yeah, appreciate it. I know the Raiders won't go cheap. I mean, the Raiders never go cheap. The Raiders will spend money. I mean, if you're going to criticize the Raiders for making all these decisions, everybody's getting paid. Everybody's getting paid who've been let go. So the Raiders' money has not been an object on losing anybody. For those who said, well, wait a second, Cliff Kingsbury wanted 3 years, we only wanted 2, did not have to do with money. From what I was sensing, that had more to do with years. They didn't want to go down that road that many years after giving Josh McDaniels an offensive play caller that many years and have to pay it off. But what do I know? That's just one of the things I heard here. So this is a decision process that's happening in front of us now that has to do more with the timing of who's going to be available. And right now, Pete Carroll was available throughout the entire process. Mike McCarthy's been let out of his contract by Jerry Jones. He's a free agent. He's available now. Aaron Glenn, defensive coordinator, is available now. You can't talk to Cliff Kingsbury at all until after Washington is eliminated. If you want anybody on that Kansas City staff, how about Steve Spagnuolo as a fail-safe option for the Raiders if he's available and goes to another Super Bowl, the defensive coordinator of Kansas City? I don't know how many people would criticize a move like that, considering the defensive dynasty that he's built. But I think most of us wanted an offensive play caller or an offensive guy. And Monken with Baltimore, I think, and I told you that a couple of weeks ago, is a really viable candidate. Todd Monken with the Ravens, as the Ravens were just eliminated, I think that's a good name with the scheme, working with Lamar Jackson. But wouldn't you want to get someone like that, a Lamar Jackson type of quarterback, if you're going to go down the road with him? Robert in Portland. Robert, thanks for waiting. Always appreciate hearing from you.
Yeah, JT, very interesting times here. I've seen everything from the Niners wanting Crosby lately, the last couple of days out of the Bay Area and all that BS. But I really would like to see Pete come, because what you have with him is a bastion of, he knows everybody in football, and he can bring in the right guys. The only guy he probably can't get is John Schneider, who was his GM forever up there in Seattle. But I really like the fact that he has tentacles to the whole league. And, he'll get a lot of respect, of course, right along with Brady. My question to you is, who would be his GM? Himself?
Well, I think Brady's connection to Spytech from Tampa Bay is probably the guy that I would think would be a front runner to come in as we're looking at this. Appreciate your call, because that's the name I've been hearing for the last 2 weeks, and always thought that was the best choice available because of the Brady connection going back to Michigan. So they're interviewing a whole bunch of other candidates, one from the Giants too now. So if you look at what we're going to see, and some of the names that are out there, the GM names are going to play out okay. I think the GM names, they're all going to be pretty good. I don't think there's a young GM that everybody's looking at saying, if we don't get this guy, we're going to be done. We have to get this GM. That's more about the coaches that we're seeing now. And the coaches, it's whittling down quickly. And I think you have to worry about who's going to be left if Pete Carroll doesn't get this job for whatever reason. The Giants assistant GM, Brandon Brown, if you watched Hard Knocks, he was in that a lot, to Joe Shane. He's another candidate that is shooting up the boards today. But if you had Pete Carroll and Spytech out of Tampa Bay, would I be happy with that? I think that worked out great. But we'll see. I'm still in a state of shock. Not that Ben Johnson went to Chicago, but Detroit lost. I'll go through some of the highlights coming up here in a little bit. Also, Chris Myers from the NFL on Fox. He joins us usually every Tuesday, and we'll have him coming up here to go around the league. He did a lot of Jaden Daniels games. He did a lot of Jaden Daniels games. We're brought to you by La Casa Cigars in Tivoli Village, right across the street from the DeCasta Verde Law Group. Let me get a 2-for-1 in. La Casa and DeCasta Verde. When you have as many partners as are, you got to do a couple 2-for-1s. Throwing in Remy Martin and Woodson Whiskey. If you're looking for a place to watch the championship weekend, Las Casa Cigars will have you all dialed in.
It's unnecessary roughness.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate everybody. Thanks a lot. Thank you for coming in. We had good numbers today. The quality of the numbers are important to me. Please share the podcast if you could. When it's done and you see it there, go to the YouTube channel. You can share it. I'd greatly appreciate it. Talk to you tomorrow.